Yes, lads, Shaw here with another video on the channel. Today we will look at our Game Week 20 team and how we got on, and we will look at some Game Week 21 transfer moves that we might be looking to make, how to replace Son and Salah, and some of your questions that you had to ask me. So let's get into it. So Game Week 20 was a massive one for a lot of people. I myself scored 91 points, which got me our Game Week rank of the top 500,000. A lot of you sent in your teams, and I've seen a lot of triple-digit hauls on Twitter, so that was great to see. We'll just run through the team real quick. So Martinez with the 1 point, which is fairly disappointing. We got Trent with 0, Porro with 2, and my transfer this week was Walker with 6, which I'm quite happy with and happy to keep for the future. Saka got a fairly lucky goal, but 7 points nonetheless. And we had our captain Foden, which I was really happy with. Although Salah outperformed him, of course, that's what he does. Fair play to anyone that captain Salah. And then Son with a goal, which I was quite happy with, and Palmer with the 18 pointer, which is ridiculous. He's some player. He's going to be a good player in the future for sure. Gabriel Jesus, who was benched unfortunately, and Alvarez with the 7 pointer. So that's our Game Week 20 team. And on the right, we just have some of the fixtures that are coming up. Um, which fixtures would I target? I like City versus Newcastle, but I don't think Newcastle will be as bad as we expect them to be. Spurs United will be a good game for sure, and that could go either way, to be honest, even with United's poor form. And I think Arsenal will be out for blood against Crystal Palace, and I think that'll be a really interesting game. I suppose a lot of Bone owners will hope that West Ham beat Sheffield United, but the way Chris Wilder sets up, I think Sheffield United will be more compact and it'll be hard for them to break down, especially with the likes of Kudus and Paqueta out of the team. And Liverpool versus Bournemouth could be a good game also. You expect Liverpool to beat them, but Bournemouth are not bad at all. They've been on good form, and Brighton Wolves could be a good game as well. I expect that to be high scoring. So that's the Game Week 20 team, and let's move on to some players that we should be looking at. So going into the Salah and Son replacements that everyone is here for. Shout out to FPL Torpy, who was kind enough to leave me use his graphic. So first on the list is Phil Foden, who I think is a really good option. I myself have him in my team. And at 7.8, you get a City asset that's coming on good form and that have a potential double. Well, that do have a double game week to come, likely in game week 25. Next, we have Richarlison, who at 6.8 million looks a great option in that Spurs team, even with Son going to the Asia Cup. I could see Spurs setting up differently, but I don't think that will hinder Richarlison's chances, in my opinion. And with Madison not yet back in the team, I think Richarlison will be on penalties, so that's something to keep an eye on. Next is KDB at 10.2. He also has a double like Foden does, but at 10.2, you get one of the best players in the league when he's on form. And he's just coming back from injury, so the only thing I'd keep an eye on is his minutes. I'm not quite sure how that'll pan out, so you'll have to see on their cup fixture on the weekend. Next, we have Erbi Chiese, who is on my differentials list, so we'll get onto him there. We have Jota at 7.7, who looks a great option for Liverpool, who are also potentially doubling in Game Week 25. He's a player I really like, and that definitely interests me, and someone I'll be considering. And next, we have probably the most popular pick this week, which is Jared Bowen. Jared Bowen looks a great price at 8 million, and with 11 goals this season, he looks a great option. And even with the likes of Paqueta and Kudus maybe out of the team, I think Paqueta might be back for the next game. Bowen is still a good asset on his own, but that could hinder his performance a small bit. So that is something I would definitely consider. Some options that are not on the list are the likes of Cole Palmer, which I assume a lot of people already have him, but if you don't, he looks amazing. And if he's still on penalties, he's a great option. Douglas Luiz is also not here. He's one that throughout the whole season no one's really talking about because his numbers aren't the best, but he's on penalties and he seems to be popping up at the most random times, so he's not a bad shout at all. And next we have Pascal Gross, who seems to be a favourite among the community that's not being talked about a whole lot. He's a good option, but I just don't know how high his ceiling is in terms of FPL. Great player, and Brighton have a nice run of fixtures. He's definitely an outside shout that you could consider. So let's get into some differentials. So going into Game Week 21, a lot of people had questions regarding differentials. So here are three great options in my opinion. Shout out to FPL Radar, who are kind enough to leave us use their graphics. It basically shows the players' comparisons per 90 minutes in their respective position. So shout out to them, thank you. So our first option is Brendan Johnson. I think for 5.8 million, he could be a great shout. With Son gone to the Asian Cup, he could be playing on the left, with Kulusevski on the right, Richarlison up top, and Lo Celso playing in the 10. And with those fixtures, United, Brentford, Everton, Brighton, Wolves, and Chelsea, I think this is a good opportunity for Brendan Johnson to show up and show what he's about. So yeah, I really like him as an option. Second, we have Alejandro Garnacho. I think for 4.8 million, you can't go wrong with him. Even if he is a player that you don't want to start every single week, I think he's a good option for sure. He is Spurs at home, which is a difficult fixture, and then he is a good set of fixtures of Wolves, West Ham, Aston Villa, Luton, and Fulham, who I think are great. And don't get me wrong, United aren't the best right now, but they could pick up from some form, and it's a risk I'd be willing to take for 4.8 million. Third on the list, we have Erbish Eze. With Elise going out with a hamstring injury, I think it probably makes Eze a less good of an option, but nonetheless, Eze is back and he's crucial for what Palace do. Again, he's a tough fixture in game week 21, but then moves on to Sheffield United at home, Brighton away, Chelsea at home, Everton away, and Burnley at home, who are great fixtures for him. Eze is probably most likely on penalties as well, so I really like him as a pick. So on Twitter, I asked you guys to ask me some questions, and I got a lot of feedback, which was quite good, and I'm happy you guys are getting involved. So thank you for sending in all your questions. I can't answer them all, unfortunately, but here are three that stood out to me. So let's get into the first question. So Ricardo asks, what do you think is the best way to gain rank? This is a really interesting one. So in my opinion, in FPL, you're very limited what you can do in terms of like you can only control what you do, and regardless of what other managers do, I mean that shouldn't concern you because you have zero control over that. So I would say not to worry about anyone else what they're doing, who they're picking, but if you just week by week try pick the best players for your team and for your upcoming fixtures, I think that will probably set you up best for not success, but that'll help you gain a lot of rank throughout the weeks. I say the main thing for gaining rank is captaincy. If you can nail your captaincy most weeks, you'll be flying. And always just go with what you think. Take in other people's feedback, but that doesn't mean you have to go with it. So that would be my main thing for gaining rank, and hopefully in the coming weeks you'll see a lot of green arrows. So the next question we have is from Elias, and he says, is Haaland for Game Week 21 a must-buy, or could we wait until Game Week 22? So in Game Week 21, City play against Newcastle at St James's Park, and this could be a good game for City, although I don't think Newcastle will be as bad as people will make them out to be. Is Haaland must-buy? Probably not. I mean, I've not owned him for the full season, and he scored 14 goals in that time, so you can definitely go without him for 1 week. I mean, if you have an easy option like 2 free transfers to upgrade your striker to Haaland without a hit, I mean, go for it. He could do well, but I wouldn't be breaking up my team to do a -4 or -8 to get him in personally. And at St James's Park, Newcastle is never an easy fixture, even with their poor form, in my opinion. Game week 22, yeah, I would probably wait until then, unless you can get him in before that easily. Game week 22, they play against Burnley, and I think everyone would probably need to have Haaland at that point because they go on a run of fixtures that are excellent. So it'll be interesting to see how City play with Kevin De Bruyne and Haaland back in the team. And let's get into the next question. Thank you for sending that in. So Mohammed says, what's the plan for blank game week 26? A lot of us have Spurs, Liverpool and Chelsea assets, and they might all blank because of the cup. So this is an interesting question. So in game week 25, we have a double game week. It's potentially Liverpool and Luton and City and Brentford, I believe. And in game week 26, we have a blank that depends on the cup ties that potentially has Spurs, Liverpool, United, Chelsea, Luton, and I think there's one other team, but I can't quite remember who they are. So that'll be a massive blank. So a strategy will be, if you still have it, is using your free hit, I'm sure. But you have to keep in mind we also have another blank game week in game week 29, and then a double in 34 and 37, I believe. That is not confirmed, so take that with a grain of salt. But you'll have to definitely keep an eye on what Ben Crellin says on Twitter. That'll be really important. And covering using your wildcard and dead end could be a good strategy. For example, if you made your team to all double in game week 25, build it up with City assets and Liverpool assets, and then free hit in game week 26, and then dead end your team into blank game week 29 and wildcard out of it game week 30 to set up for the game week 34 double and game week 37 double. That is definitely a viable strategy. But let's not look too much into the future. We have a game week coming up that lasts for about 11 days, I believe. So January will be long as we only have 2 game weeks, but that is another great question, and thank you for it. So that wraps up today's video, lads, and thank you all for watching. If you found it useful, be sure to subscribe and like to the channel. I would appreciate it. And if you have any criticism, be sure to leave it in the comments. I know these videos aren't perfect, but I promise I'll make something each video better. If you have any questions or anything you want me to consider when making a video, put it in the comments or tweet me on Twitter. I always try to respond to all of you. And if you haven't already, check out the live stream I done with Harry. We ran through a lot of our Game Week 21 dilemmas and players that we should consider. So that's a really good stream. Check that out on Fantasy Football Scout. Thank you for watching, and it's been a pleasure. So see you later, lads.